The Squad's Hamas caucus is demanding more campus chaos while denying the threat to Jewish students that Jewish students face from anti-Semitic mobs. The NYPD busting up 2 more anti-Israel protests, clearing out encampments at NYU and the New School. It was a less confrontational scene compared to madness at UCLA and Columbia, with some protesters obeying orders from the police to disperse and get out of their tents. But leave it to the Squad to give cover to the mob. The radical progressive lawmakers are downplaying anti-Semitism.
My message is the same to a Jewish student, to a Palestinian student, to everybody, that it is really important to educate yourself about what is anti-Semitic, about what is Islamophobic.
I visited the Columbia encampment last week, and they were completely peaceful. I also met with so-called pro-Israel students when I was there, just to hear about the anti-Semitism that they have experienced. And they told me it has been minimal, it has been overblown by the media.
Oh, my God. But if the Squad thinks that anti-Semitism is overblown, maybe they should help clean up one of these encampments, which are littered with tons of anti-Semitic graffiti and hate-filled posters. The NYPD discovering these signs in NYU property, which bear terrorist slogans like "Death to Israel" and "Death to America." And Jewish students at Stanford University snapping this disturbing photo of a man wearing a Hamas headband on campus. The White House is dismissing criticism that Biden played both sides of the card after the president called out both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism.
Lately, we've been seeing a lot of vile anti-Semitic rhetoric on campuses. Does he think Islamophobia is just as big of a problem on campus as anti-Semitism?
The president's always going to call out all forms of hate, always. It's part of who we are as a country, as when we talk about our freedoms, our democracy, to disagree and agree with each other, even about this war.
All right, Katie, the president is going to call out all forms of hate, irrespective of the fact that we're at an inflection point with anti-Semitism in this country, and there's no claims right now of Islamophobia. Why do you think the president is doing that?
Well, he is really worried about losing Michigan. And Rashida Tlaib, part of the Squad, Democrats like to say the Squad doesn't have a lot of influence. They're far left in the party, but she's the one who's been driving this movement against Joe Biden, and he's very worried about not being able to get these votes in November. But I want to focus in on some of the comments that Jamal Bowman, congressman, made. For example, he said the anti-Semitism, which is just racism, is minimal. Well, are we now going to accept a minimal amount of racism according to that standard? I mean, this is not minimal, what we are seeing here. And the reason why the Squad is so focused on tearing down the Israel-U.S. relationship is because it's a good relationship for America, and of course they don't like this country, what it stands for, and the foundation of it. And so when you move forward and how this is going to work, this is going to get worse because Democrats in 2020 tolerated a lot of this violence. They're tolerating a lot of it now. And when they say they're peaceful, and I was in the encampment by definition is a violent place to be because they are taking over property that is not theirs, and they're blocking people from getting in and out of it. They're blocking police officers. It's always interesting to watch them break all of the rules that they know are there. And then when the police come in to break up their illegal occupation of a public space while they're going after Jewish students and wrapping George Washington in Hamas paraphernalia, that they're then the victims and they can no longer function in normal society.
You know, Greg, it really is stunning that Jamal Bowman, a congressman, would actually come out and say the media is overblowing, this anti-Semitism. I've spoken to these students. It's shocking.
It's almost as if he's accusing the media of pulling some kind of alarm.
Like a fire alarm?
Maybe that's what I was getting at. This truly, though, it is a movement in that it's one long steaming pile of crap. This is the worst protest in American history. And I'm still trying to figure out why it strikes me as so physically repulsive, so ugly. And I was thinking about it. when you have an ideology that encourages the execution of gays and also non-virgin females, we can say, obviously, that this is bad, it's brutal, it induces suffering. But there's another element to that evilness. It's the intent, the pleasure, and the absolute certitude that causes those acts to happen. And on campus, we aren't seeing people being murdered. We aren't seeing people being executed, but what you are seeing are the seeds of the ideology that are being planted. When you look at the faces and hear the voices, you can hear the certitude, the blind dogma, the hate. And this is why it's so comical when they equate anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, because it doesn't, you're not seeing Jews do this. It helps answer the question why these protesters seem so ugly. They seem aimless, yet they're angry. They seem deadly certain, but they're still ignorant. They seem energetic, but deeply unwell. Like they have a lot of energy, but they look sickly. And I believe that's because they're physically and spiritually sick, because they're operating from a punitive ideology. They don't wish to create anything but to destroy. And their ugliness, therefore, isn't just physical. It reflects the ugliness of their soul. But it's not Islam. It's an iteration of Marxism that absorbed the worst elements of a religious dogma. Because at its base, it's not about Allah, it's about power. And what they're doing is they just happen to align themselves with a group of people upset about something. And this is why they haven't read about it. They don't care. All it is about focusing their rage toward the misery that they experience in their own lives.
Mm-hmm. You know, Harold, one of the disturbing things that they found NYPD on the NYU campus was these, posters, let repression breed more resistance and, death to America on the NYU campus. So it's, it started out as pro-Palestinian, then it went to anti-Semitic, then it went to destroy Israel. Now it's death to America. How far does this go?
It's unacceptable. Look, I have a lot of Democrat friends and I have a lot of Republican friends. None of my Democrat friends are believers like Congressman Bowman, the kinds of things he was saying. I don't think it's not a serious position that I believe he's taken. I certainly don't equate that with my party. Two, we've said it on, I don't understand the people who are out protesting. I would have respected, I could understand Congressman Bowman would have respected what he was saying if he said, look, I've urged the kids not to be violent. I urge the kids not to be hateful and not to threaten and try to intimidate Jewish students. They have every right to protest. But he didn't say that, which is alarming on a big level. No one's saying to Hamas, accept the deal. Secretary Blinken's in the region. They have a good deal on the table to get the hostages released and to gain a ceasefire. I don't see anyone in these protests now saying we want a ceasefire because we're concerned about Gazans or we're concerned about Palestinians. To Greg's point, they've taken on another regime of ideas. I mean, I think we talked about yesterday, there were a group of people out saying accept climate change or accept the climate deal that's going before Congress. We do a disservice to these kids, to the kids who are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school at these universities, with these people out here. If you believe so firmly and strongly in the things you're protesting, organize around issues, run candidates for office, vote in elections, but don't deny kids an opportunity, kids who go to school who are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars an opportunity to be educated. And finally, cops should be allowed on these campuses real soon. There should be we've seen what has happened. It's a little, Brian and I were texting back and forth about an episode of one of the schools on the West Coast. And it's some would argue that you don't want to do it. I think you have to put police and law enforcement on campus as quickly as possible to secure students or give students a sense of security. Jewish students, non-Jewish students. My sister is at George Washington University and has concerns about her own safety there as a freshman. And she's not Jewish. And she fears for her safety or is concerned about her safety as she is her classmates who are Jewish as well.
You know, Brian, they have called, some of the law students at Columbia have called for a cancellation of the exams because of the trauma. Right. You know, I think about how such wusses they are compared to the 17-year-olds who go into the IDF, start carrying weapons and fight for people's lives. These American kids, and a lot of them aren't. They're just wusses.
Yeah, I mean, some of the quotes, the violence we have witnessed, it's irrevocable, shaken many of us on the review. We know this has to be the same for the majority of our classmates. The events of last night has left many of us shaken and our peers worried. Okay, best of luck, guys. I can't wait for you to handle my murder case when my life's on the line. One thing, again, you're being very kind. Congressman Jamal Bowman is lying. He's not telling the truth. There's no way you could be talking to, saying, I haven't talked to Jewish kids that don't feel threatened. We've had 5 of them on the show that Greg does not like, that morning show, Fox and Friends. So we've had them on, and we've talked to them offline. Then I have them on radio. Then they give me to other kids who have specifics about how they're being threatened. So why would you say that and put yourself in such a position to be easily disputed? Alexis McAdams probably did 15 of them live. How do you feel? What is it like? Well, my parents want me to come home. I refuse to give into it. Now, the last one was Fordham. We had NYU. We had Columbia. So that's a flat-out lie. He's trailing by 20 points in the primary. Why would he go more radical than he is right now? Larry Krasner came out. He blames the cops, that horrible DA in Philadelphia. Yep. He says, how could the Columbia call the cops after a peaceful demonstration? To me, there's, Carol, I think you're giving them the same credit.
Who am I giving credit to?
These guys in the encampment.
I've said exactly the opposite on this show about that. No, I'm not giving them the credit for that.
Just let me finish. I'm just saying the people out for civil rights going against the Vietnam War, you know exactly how that was authentic. I don't believe. Yeah, but I don't believe this is authentic.
Do you guys really text together? Do you guys really text back and forth?
When it makes your show better,
Harold.
When I feel as though I could help.
They only talk about you.
Good to know, Harold.
But all I'm saying is they're not being peaceful.
Guys.
They're not being peaceful. You can protest about whatever you want as long as you're peaceful and you don't threaten people, intimidate, or
okay.
But
look, guys, we have more of this coming up. So,
hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.